Libby, at some point, everybody needs a will. Everybody needs to choose an executor or executors for their estate. So what are the key attributes that people should be looking for when choosing either one person or multiple people to be executors?
It's an awesome question, Mark. And in fact, most people are so late in getting a will. We have seen older clients who've done intense estate planning where the assets are being passed on to the adult children, and those adult children don't have a will. And if those adult children don't have a will, all of those assets, actually because they die intestate, flow back up to the parents, which completely discredits sometimes thousands and thousands of dollars that have been spent to deal with specific tax planning. Really quickly with executors, make sure that they're in your own province. Make sure that you tell them and ask them. It's not a fun job. It's very complicated. Make sure that you trust them. Make sure you explain why they are the executor and some specific details that might need to be known about your family, like whether you have dependent children or charitable wishes or whatever it might be. But it's actually a much more serious job than people take it. It is not a favor to your children to make them an executor. For sure you want more than one. If your executor is gone, dead by the time you die, his or her executor becomes your executor. Most people don't know that. So we definitely want more than two executors, and also just as a comfort zone for the ultimate beneficiaries, that they know two people are looking over and agreeing as to how things should be dealt with.
So would you say maybe three or more is ideal in that if there's a dispute of any sort, at least you can get a majority among two of the three? Does that make any sense?
Personally, I find that's too many. I've actually dealt with a client a year ago who there were three, and it was very hard to get them all on the phone at the same time and to agree. So personally, I think two is enough. But again, you can talk with your own lawyer and tax advisor, and we can discuss it with you to figure that out. But the liability that executors have today is much more than it used to be, where if you disperse the assets before Revenue Canada stamped probate and said you've done everything correctly, you as the executor can be responsible for the taxes to the government. So it really is important that somebody who has got some financial savvy is also involved.
It depends on the case, I'm sure, but a lot of people will choose family members to be executors. Oftentimes, as you know, that might not be the best idea because there are certain family dynamics. So when is it right to have a family member do it? When is it not right? And when do you want somebody independent?
Mark, I'm a huge believer, if you can, that you talk to your kids about what your will says, why it says what it says, and why you've chosen who you've chosen. Again, we spoke to a younger client last week, and after his mom had fallen ill, he actually realized that he was too emotionally involved with his mom to actually want to be the executor. And so that was a great conversation for them to have, and he has decided he won't be an executor, but he's playing a role in who will be an executor. So it's such a personal thing. I just think communicating and talking as much as you can with a family and a third party as an advisor being there to help take the emotions out of it and to mediate and bring up the questions that need to be thought about, I think that's really, really important.
You said being an executor can be very difficult, and I was reminded, and it's interesting, that there's no training for this. There's no school. There's no course. You're just kind of thrown into it and assumed to figure it out, assuming you have some sort of financial acumen.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. Now, executors and trustees, for that matter, are allowed to charge a fee. I would suggest to anybody doing their will that you actually state what that fee is. And if you own assets outside of your province and in different countries, it just makes the job huge. I think on average it's 18 months to have a will settled. So that's a long period of time to ask somebody to be an executor for you. And if they're a trustee, that's a whole other story, because that could be decades of work.